We're doing a group response on Hans Rosling's discussion on HIV and what causes such high rates in areas such as sub-Saharan Africa. And what really surprised me was when he broke it down and showed that the wealthier um, populations in each of the highly affected countries actually had the most or like the highest rates of HIV. Because I feel like we always tend to link that with poverty. We always associate all these poorer countries as having high rates of HIV simply because they don't have access to good medical care, other causes such as that. But it was interesting to see that it's kind of more of a cultural thing rather than simply a inability to receive proper care.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I think just going along with the cultural thing, how in class Brother Meeker brought up the video we watched last time, and how being culturally accepted in South Africa, that men, it's considered like a badge of honor and a good thing that men de-virgin women, and so that really just propagates that problem of spreading HIV because they could have several partners within a month, which he shows that that's a major way of spreading the disease. And it's not good. And so, yeah.
I thought bringing up kind of the half the sky and then that video kind of made it make sense because I feel like Hans Rosling, he brings up money's not the problem. He brings up like sub-Saharan Africa isn't necessarily the problem because he shows on his graph that there's a few bubbles that are really high up there and that are pretty big, but for the majority they're on the same level as America. And so he kind of points out like Africa is not really the problem. And then he points out that money's not really the problem because with money, places like Botswana or whatever it was that he was talking about, they drop a little bit, but they don't really drop a bunch. And mainly the vaccine just kind of prolongs their life. It doesn't cure them of it, and it doesn't stop them from doing it. And so I think bringing up half the sky that the culture is really the issue is like kind of the therefore what, because I feel like Hans Rosling kind of leaves it on like a cliff and says like, well, it's not these two things, but good luck figuring out the problem. And I think that other video proves that culture is the problem, and that's why certain areas, whether they're rich or they're not, they're affected more than other areas. And I think that's the biggest problem.
I think going along with that, I thought it was like interesting to bring up where he was talking about the Middle East countries and how they're relatively all low, but where it was the highest was because in their culture they accept more prostitution, there's more heroin addicts, and because of that, that is where HIV is the most. And so it's interesting to see how when things like that are allowed in your culture, it's more accepted. Again, it goes back to that. That's where the problem lies.
Yeah. And it's just interesting tying that all together with the celestial perspective and what we believe on, the law of chastity and such things, virtue, and how, there's so much just examples in the world and even scientific fact that kind of show that that's really the best way to go. And, it shows, all these cultural, in these societies where it's culturally acceptable for people to have more partners, and where, the spread of STDs is a big issue, and how that can all really be treated or really just brought down significantly.
I think it'd be pretty cool to look at like the United States, break it down, and see like what areas are infected with the most AIDS, and be like, oh, well, it's infected because this is kind of the culture there in that society.
Just like how we talked about.
Because the bubble in the U.S. was pretty big. It was pretty darn big.
Right.
And so it'd be interesting to see like what parts of the United States, what specific cities, and then be able to go there and visit and say like, okay, that makes sense why there's a lot of this going on.
Just
well,
like
I'm sure if you went to like California, big cities such as LA, San Francisco, I'm sure the rates would be much higher in New York City. And probably places like the Deep South and Utah probably wouldn't have as high of rates, just because their cultural and religious beliefs play a key role in all of that.
Exactly.
That would be really interesting.
I really think that's the main factor. Like, but you can't just go and change someone's culture.
Yeah.
So that's why it's such a hard problem to get rid of, because it's so ingrained in some people in areas of the world. So
Yeah, and I think that's why, as we saw, with his little graph, the progression over time, I think that's why, honestly, we haven't seen such a huge decrease or a huge change, really, because even with all the awareness that we have and all the medicine and technology and people willing to go over there and try and help, again, it just all shows that it's part of the culture, and that's something that no outsider can really go in and change, or really, it's just got to be done by the people, and that's what they showed in Half the Sky with the one woman who ran the Rainbow House, and how she comes from that culture, and so she's really making this big impact because she's aware of, where the problems are and what needs to be done.
right, it really is something that has to start from within.
Exactly.
From the inside and then move out.
And it's really hard because you have to. It takes someone on the inside to recognize that there's a problem, and then they have to change it.
Which does show how important education is, though. The more
Exactly.
education is within the community, within the country, then I feel like you'll see a lot more progression in that and a decrease over time of HIV.
So go missionaries, go educate.
Yes! Okay.